just received a call from the Italians saying that there are rubber dinghy boats out here somewhere full of migrants. It's extremely choppy out here today, so we're trying to scour the oceans right now and to find them before it's too late. Not Italia. I don't think these guys know that this is a Libyan Coast Guard. They're heading straight back to Libya. I think these guys think that they've been rescued by the Italians and they're headed for Europe. I think they're taking you back to Libya.
Libya.
With the global migration crisis overwhelming Europe, in 2016, the EU came up with a new $215 million plan to pay Libya to contain the problem. This strategy means that Italian warships are now responsible for diverting thousands of migrants a year back to a struggling Libyan state.
Why is it that Libya has become such a hub for smuggling?
فيما سبق لم تكن ليبيا بالصفة هذه. كانت ليبيا أكثر شعوب المنطقة أو دول المنطقة شمال أفريقيا استقرارا. لكن حاليا الوضع السياسي نحن في حالة حرب، في حالة عدم استقرار سياسي. لا يوجد لدينا رئيس دولة وتشريع. حاليا الدستور غير موجود، ولهذا الانفلات الأمني.
This lawlessness has plagued the country since Gaddafi's downfall, and today Libya is fractured into rival governments. The UN and Western allies are backing the Government of National Accord, or the GNA, which controls the capital, Tripoli. But with a failing economy and mounting insecurity, the GNA is struggling to maintain its hold. Libyans are increasingly frustrated and desperate for change.
There are several thousand people that have shown up in Martyrs Square here in the centre of Tripoli to demand change for Libya. They're saying that since 2011,
stronghold outside of Syria and Iraq. They ruled the coastal city of Sirte for 2 years, terrorizing the local population. After a 7-month-long battle, ISIS was finally defeated with the help of US airstrikes and a ground offensive led by militias funded by the GNA.
we're with the biggest coalition of militias here in the West. These guys were responsible for driving ISIS out of Sirte back in December 2016, and now they're continuing city. We're headed to the very eastern point of Sirte, where there's the biggest threat of ISIS return. What is the security situation at the moment? I mean, how much of a threat is ISIS?
نسبة أكثر من 80% داخل في المدينة في حد ذاتها. بالنسبة في الأطراف في تهديدات وفي تحركات.
So since you guys kicked ISIS out of Sirte, they've been regrouping right outside of it?
عندهم تجمعات برا من نطاق المدينة، المسافة ديما تتراوح من ال90 لعند ال110 120 كيلو 115.
Who do you guys answer to? I mean, for the last few years you've come under the jurisdiction of the GNA, right?
لا تبع حكومة الوفاق.
I heard that in the last few months you guys haven't received a salary, is that true?
صحيح. هي في إشكالية كبيرة بالتأكيد. أنت عارف أن الحوافز المادية والأمور المادية هي الحافز الأول. يعني الشباب قصدي لما يتكلف بعمل ويقدم نفسه قصدي واجب على الدولة أن هي توفر له مقابل.
The risk of not paying these militias is that they could look elsewhere for sources of income. In 2014, the National Oil Corporation, or NOC, Libya's largest oil producer, was attacked by militias fiercely opposed to the GNA. We spoke to the chairman of the NOC, Mustafa Sanala. How much money is Libya losing from the current situation in terms of the security surrounding the oil?
Good question. You know, our revenue, we lost more than $126 billion.
126 billion US dollars?
Yes.
In how long?
For the last 5 years. You know?
So if you can just sort out the security situation,
yes,
then you're good.
Yes. We have nice climates, nice weather, we have water, we have oil, we have gas, we have less people, we have 2,000 kilometers on the beach. We have all tools of success we have. But unfortunately, we have bad people.
So these are all bullet holes up here?
Yeah.
I guess this is what happens when oil gets caught up in politics.
Yes, exactly.
Sanala is considered one of the only well-respected neutral voices in Libya. But to keep the oil industry functioning, he must work with a government struggling to maintain control and hundreds of militias vying for Libya's most valuable resource. How much of Libya's political situation and power struggles that seem to be going on across the country, how much is that down to who gets to control the oil?
All factions want to control the oil, you know. And unfortunately, if the oil is controlled by militias, and this will prolong the life of the war, civil war in the country, unfortunately.
How rampant is smuggling, including oil smuggling, here in Libya?
This business of smuggling is huge, and hundreds of millions is lost yearly, you know, only for the smuggling. Unfortunately, the same people who is smuggling the fuel, the same people who is trafficking the human, and also the drugs and weapons.
The GNA has reportedly paid militias to act as coast guards to stop illegal smuggling. Some of these militias have themselves been accused of working in the illegal migrant trade. The GNA has been accused of working with smugglers to prevent migrants from reaching Italy. Is the GNA guilty of paying those very people who are guilty of some of these criminal activities?
I think it's a good question. Anyhow, I would like to say here, NOC position is very clear, you know. I'm not paying any criminals.
I'm not accusing you of doing that, but I'm asking whether the GNA is.
So I mean the NOC position is clear. We are against rewarding and, you know, compromising with those criminals.
You're being very careful.
Diplomatic,
Very careful not to answer that question. But the GNA does deal with militias. Here in the smuggling hub of Sabrata, this militia group is led by Abdelrahman Milad, who goes by the name Bija. Besides fighting for control over territory in western Libya, he's also been paid by the GNA as a coast guard to stop the smuggling. Bija took us out to pick up a boat full of migrants trying to make their way to Italy.
زود فيصل حبل تعال واحد تعال والمركب هو تو غرق فيه ميه قلبه.
How do your men treat the migrants when they come across them? Obviously we've seen reports that they're less than kind towards them.
ضرب كانش واحد هيك دار لقطة غلط، أما هيك ما ينضربوش. تو شوف يا اسمع، قديش مخلص؟ شوف شوي، قديش مخلص فلوس أنت؟ ها؟ 2000 يورو، عارف قداش هذا؟ 20,000 لما تجي تحسب المركب الوقف فيه 100 قداش يطلع؟ منهم مولاي اللي طلعك مش اسمه هيثم التومي.
So you know who the smugglers are?
نعرفهم كلهم عندي حتى تصويرهم.
While we were with him, Bija began taunting one of these smugglers.
نساء المغاربة عندي وكان كراش تعال خذهم. تمام انت راجل هيثم التومي تعال. انت يا صرصري انت يا صرصري يا متطوع.
But Bija himself has been accused by the UN of smuggling migrants. He denies these charges.
بتعود الصلعة متاعك بتتكلم انت وياه بتدير دوشة بالشعار شنو راك بتموت. تفهم فيا انت وياه تفهم فيا شوشة ركي ولكي راك بتموت.
With allegedly corrupt militias like these taking full advantage of a government payroll, Libya has descended from a place of hope just 7 years ago to a largely lawless country. We sat down with Taher al-Soni, a senior advisor to the GNA, to ask about his vision of Libya's future. It's very hard to see a state that is failing its people quite like yours is. I mean, the economy is a complete mess, the social services don't work, the militias have more control than perhaps even your government. Do you recognize the urgency to address these issues right now if the country is to move forward?
There is hope because we do see a momentum that even the people are fed up of this kind of chaos. This is something that we have inherited. It is something that we're trying to manage. It will take some time though.
The militant force who is responsible for liberating Sirte from ISIS and is continuing to protect Sirte at the moment, they're saying that they haven't been paid for the last few months. Are you concerned that given the dire state of the economy at the moment, that these forces, whether you call them militias or not, are going to turn against the GNA?
Why did you call it a militia? That's the question.
You'd call them the army?
You have to know, when the fight happened, of course we had organized forces and there was what you call them the support forces, you want to call them armed groups, you want to call them militias, name it as you wish. But in the end of the day, it was under the full control and umbrella of the GNA and Ministry of Defense. The issue of salaries, it's a financial crisis we're all facing.
We've spoken to a lot of people and a lot of people have said that the problem is the GNA and they can't see a future for Libya with the GNA in power.
The GNA was meant to be in a temporary period until the constitution comes out and there is proper elections for a steady state. This frustration is totally accepted and recognized by us. I will not fool Libyans and say that we are the best government, but we are the best available government.